Okay, I think let's start. There might be some people still joining, but let's start. So welcome to the webinar. The topic is property fund management, and in a new way, let's say, in a better way. Few words about myself. And so I'm a Markus Asikainen, CEO and co-founder of Exquance software. We've been working in the real estate industry about 10 years so far. We started 10 years ago by creating in Excel all kinds of analytical tools for portfolio management and valuation. Back in the days, we were only a few people. Today we are about 20 people. We have 2 applications. The Model 3 is deep calculation platform, portfolio management platform, and valuation platform as well. And just a few weeks ago, we released the Fundy application in a slush event in Helsinki. So the topic about fund management is really lovely to me that we are going to talk about because it relates to the platform. Yeah, by the way, there is also a chat. So if you can find that, you can just throw any comment there or just say hi that I know you guys are live. And there is also Q&A possibility. So just throw in any questions that comes to your mind during this webinar or at the end, and I will collect the questions at the end and discuss about answers. So just feel free to put in comment. All right, got a first chat. Thanks, Morek. Welcome. Okay. Yeah. So let's frame first a little bit where and what we are talking about today. So we have a property fund. Fund has some investors, and then the fund makes investments into real estate or maybe in another real estate funds. And what happens there? Investors are putting money to the fund, and with that money, fund is buying a real estate, and tenant pays the rent. Real estate is returning money back to the fund, and then the fund, after taking out of the fees and paying the interest on loans, etc., is returning the profit and capital back to the investors, with the aim of making, of course, a profit as good as possible with the controlled risk. And all these operations, the fund, the general partner, has to report consistently and constantly to the investors, so that the investors can follow what's going on, and in order that they can evaluate the manager. So this is the frame we are today. This topic, this webinar is about this topic. So how to manage open-end and closed-end property funds and investor transaction using modern technology. So I'm going to highlight today several examples why managing property funds in Excel and email is not really a good way. And I see we have here in this webinar several people from investment companies. So if you manage property funds, and especially if you are managing that mostly on Excel, I'm sure this is valuable for you. I also see we have some software company persons here. So if you happen to have something like property fund management software, you might find a hint or two also here to your own platform. Okay, we've been in the past 10 years, we've been talking to, I think, more than 100 different property fund management companies, basically general partners. who are managing property funds. And we have pretty nice database how they are managing the funds. And it is quite common case. This depends, of course, on the country and so on and the company, but it's very common that still today, the fund management company has some really big Excel file where they have usually built this in-house, and this Excel file is basically a calculation file to manage and calculate all the transactions, so capital cost distributions, that stuff, that kind of stuff. And it is also common, especially if the calculations are in Excel, that as the fund has to do invoicing, as it does capital cost, also the invoicing is quite often actually done in Excel. And that's also a really common pattern. And even more common pattern is that when a fund has to report to investors, they are sending usually quarterly report or something like that over email, which is not bad, but there could be more attractive ways also, maybe on top of that, to report to investors, not just statically over email. So what's the problem when we do fund management inside Excel? We actually end up with the inefficient workflow. And I'm gonna show what this means exactly shortly. We obviously run a risk always that we can have a calculation error when we work with an Excel file. That's obvious thing. And the third thing, which is not probably so obvious, is that Excel, if you manage fund in Excel, we don't have a very high security. This is not easily understood by people, but I will come to that as well shortly, what this means. And I'm gonna refer to these points throughout this webinar and highlight the difference in Excel and the professional platform. So if you put the efficiency of work here to the horizontal axis and the security of the workflow in the vertical axis, Excel email combo lands somewhere here. So it doesn't achieve very efficient workflow, and it doesn't achieve a highly secured environment. Where we want to really be is here. We want that we manage funds efficiently, but also with extremely high secured. It's huge amount of money, millions of euros or dollars or whatever currency you are. It's a lot of money we are moving here when we are managing the funds. Let's start with calculations first to walk through. This is actually one Excel model we ourselves developed to one of our clients approximately 10 years ago. So this client wanted to have a calculation model for the fund and to manage the transactions. And by transactions, I mean, what we mean by transaction is that if investor makes a commitment to the fund, if a fund calls capital from the investors, if the fund distributes capital or profit to investors, or records net asset value, records a new asset they buy. These are all transactions, that's what I mean. So we built this kind of model for them, and it of course works well as long it's used correctly. But not so often, but sometimes, because several people, several users, employees can access this file, it is possible somebody goes and accidentally destroys some calculation formula. And what this means is, for example, if we have a incorrect formula and we don't realize it, and then we make a capital call, for example, And instead of this 1.4 million that I'm calling from this investor, I should have called 3 million. And I only realized this later on. I'm going to have a huge trouble first to explain this to the investors and then fix it. I really want to avoid this to happen. And second problem with Excel files in general is that there is no user access control. Whoever can access this file can do technically whatever he wants to. And we should really have a strong access control. Only certain users should be able to do or see certain things. So the preference we always recommend is Excel is great, it's transparent, but it should be used in fund management only as a secondary tool, maybe to double check calculations, not the primary tool because of these problems. So the way better way is to take a professional platform. So instead of having these transactions inside Excel, we don't want to have Excel as a database. We want to have it in the professional system where the system can calculate automatically, for example, capital costs and distributions to investors. So we don't have a broken formula ever. And we also want to control the access. So we want to strongly control about the security, which users, which persons can do and what. So compared to Excel, we achieve many things. No broken formulas, strong access control. But is there anything bad here compared to Excel? We could think about transparency in the calculation. In Excel, it's great that you can see through how everything works because you can see through the formulas. The very best platforms actually can turn this to the same position on Excel. So they can make the user see through how everything works inside the calculation. For example, allowing to export the calculation model to Excel with the formulas. So it's achievable, although it's not common today to see it, but technically it's possible. Okay, let's look at another case, invoicing. So fund calls capital or asks the investor to pay fees to the fund. They need to invoice those investors. And also, after they have sent the invoice out, they want to track, are those payments made in time and so on, correct amounts and so on. And it is very often this is done also in Excel or in a separate accounting department, especially the large companies. So not too efficient way. So, and this is the common scenario we see. If the fund management company runs Excel calculations, they can have a sheet in the same file, which is this kind of invoice sheet, which links to the calculation. And then they create 10 or 100 invoice inside this Excel file, maybe using Visual Basic or some automation to create several invoices quickly. But it's not, it might work, but it's not really optimal way to do it. So way better way is to have a professional platform which can generate invoices, of course, to very nice layout automatically to all investors. This is what we want to have. So if I have 100 investors and I'm calling capital at the same time from all of them, I will need to make 100 invoices. And I want that those invoices are created automatically quickly to me consistently. And besides, any good platform, decent platform can verify bank account numbers that they are valid, invoice numbers they are valid, and if you use reference number or such things that they are also valid. So of course this could be done in Excel, but usually not done. We have observed. Okay, then when we send the invoices out, we expect the investors pay those amounts to us, to the fund. And how do we track this? We don't really want to go to our banking system, especially if you have a lot of investors. We don't want to go to the bank system to track them. If you have one investor, that's fine. But if you have a lot of investors, we want to have some better way. A good platform would basically be like an alert system. It will tell at all times which invoices are paid and which invoices are not paid. And of course, it would tell also quickly in a report form, for example, to identify quickly all payments that are not done. So this really helps in the efficiency. So with this kind of way, we achieve higher efficiency. We guarantee there's no broken formulas again in our invoices. So big improvement. What about distribution? When the fund is making distribution, it's sending money to investors. We want to, and we think this is the actually great flow to do it. We create first the distribution in the application. And now because we are sending money out, we don't really want that one user can just decide to send, let's say, €1 million to some investor. We don't want one user can control this process. We really would like that there has to be another user that has to confirm this payment before it can be processed. It adds a lot to the security. And after this is confirmed, then what we want to happen is that the payments are made automatically. We don't necessarily want that some other department in our company would go and process our order. The same system can, through integration, of course, to the banking system, pay the payments automatically. This is what we want to have. This achieves very high efficiency, not possible in Excel, of course. And again, no broken formulas when we calculate the distribution. And it also achieves high security. We call this confirmation process 4i principle because you have to have 2 people 4 eyes to do it. One people cannot do this in a good platform. And we think this is good, secure, and efficient way to make payments to investors. Okay, surely we want that good platform. You can also manage and track your investments. So real estate portfolio, maybe if you are fund, then you want to monitor the target funds that you have invested. So this is, I think, the requirement of the decent system as well. And other obvious thing, obviously, is that when we need a certain kind of report, let's say IRR report of investors and funds, this should be easily taken out, and preferably also it should be taken out to the Excel so that there is a calculation formula behind. This is optimal case in our thinking, that the user can really understand why my returns that I maybe need to report to investors are what they are. So that's about the reporting, just briefly. Okay, we don't have much time left, so I will just run a few more points about the security, and then we will conclude. Because the security is always a little bit not, I think, understood probably by a normal persons that operate the fund. Because if you look at security really narrowly, you might just think that if I have everything in Excel, I'm really secure. My data is locally stored. It doesn't need to be even in the cloud. That's it. Isn't that like a really secure? But if you look at security a little bit wider perspective, then we see a lot of issues. First one is what we call audit trail. What is audit trail? It's basically a log of activities that a certain user inside applications has done. For example, imagine a scenario where I'm a little bit fraudulent user. I go to the application, I want to send 1 million euro to my own bank account. So I'm basically making illegal stuff. The audit trail in a good system, all good systems should have audit trail, first of all. Audit trail tracks this, and the software vendor can always tell what happened. So this is an audit trail is not also modifiable by a normal user. It's not accessible, basically. So we can always reconstruct what has happened inside the application, what a certain user did at a certain time of the day. So second thing is access rights. We also touched this. If you have Excel file, whoever has an access to this file basically can do whatever. But what we really want to have, we want to limit the access and the rights to all users only to the absolutely needed things. We don't want that all users can do everything. So this is of course easy to achieve, simple to achieve in a software platform. This SSO login means that when user logs in the system, they don't need to enter password. So because some users are not careful necessarily how they manage their password, where do they have them. SSO login, basically you don't need to worry about it. Just click a button and you are in. And third thing is GDPR. It's a European thing, but usually, or not always, but sometimes, let's say, funds have private person data. Tenants can be private person data. Investors can be private persons, and there can be contact persons. They are also private persons. And GDPR law that came into effect this year in Europe really requires that the fund manager has to be able to identify quickly which private person data they possess in the system, and they had to be quickly able to change it, and also they should be able to tell which of their users have been just viewing private person data. In Excel, I've never seen an Excel system which can or is achieving this. Professional software platforms will achieve this, of course. Okay, I'm about to conclude here. My main point of this webinar is that if you manage funds, if you are a general partner especially, use technology to your advantage and show it also to your investors that you are using professional platforms. It can be the small edge to win the capital. And Excel email is not really the best to say to investors. We can manage this inside Excels due to the reasons I just walked through. Okay, we have actually, I think, only 5 minutes now left. Please send to Q&A chat any questions you want me to answer here. Surely you can contact me also after this webinar. Email markus@exquance.com, and I can answer you. But I will wait. I don't see, I think, yet questions, but I will wait few minutes, and then I will answer. Okay, that's the first question. How long roughly would it take to transfer a fund from Excel to a database? So if I understand right, if you have now your fund transaction stored inside Excel and you want to convert that data into a software platform, I'm just imagining, of course, let's say our case now, to find the application we run ourselves. We call this operation data conversion. And it really, I would say, the whole process depends on what kind of format your data is inside your Excel. If it's truly well organized, we would, of course, like walk through the structure, and then we have automated tools that can convert it. So it really depends. It's possible to say the actual conversion takes only like 10 minutes, but to understanding and tweaking the conversion tool is probably a week, I would say, at least what we have done earlier. But if the data is like badly organized, then first it needs to be organized to the systematic format. So that's the brief answer. Next question is, so one of the earlier slides I mentioned AI. Are you building this for data analysis in the future? Yeah, it was actually mentioned in my first slide. It referred actually to our portfolio management valuation platform, which we are now adding a first AI components. Currently, we kind of think in property fund management, which is the topic of this webinar, that AI, first of all, in what I think personally in AI in real estate is that the true AI is almost impossible to utilize because of data. There is no enough data for the AI machine to operate. So we find currently pretty limited capabilities in the property fund management with the AI. A lot of companies are working on this, surely. I hope in the future years there will be a revolution on this. But currently we don't ourselves offer, for property fund management especially, a huge solution. I would say closest that we are working is actually automated valuation of commercial real estate, which is based on this AI concept I mentioned on the first slide. It means that you click a building and you get the value. So if you manage assets on the system, technically, if you can imagine you want to have a valuation, you click a button and in 10 seconds you will get the valuation. This is the thing we are ourselves working on very heavily next year. But as of now, at least we don't have a big realization yet on this component, but it's a very interesting topic. Next question is, can we find a demo on our website to experience the software? Yes, you can go to, I mean, first of all, we have two softwares, but the property fund management software, you can go to fundy.co. So this is the landing page for this tool. There you can see a little bit more information on that. And you have there a contact form to contact us, and there is a chance to get the demo if you want to experience that specific software. Just go to fundy.co. Okay, I think I'm about actually 1 minute over, so I don't see now more questions, so I think I will conclude this webinar, and thanks for all participants. And again, if you want to contact and talk more about this, just throw me an email, markus@exquance.com, and we take it further from there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Markus, for this great presentation. Thank you for your time. Thank you everybody else for attending, participating. Hope you all enjoyed, and hope to see you next time in future events of Global Proptech Online.
Sure, appreciate it.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.